To answer your other question, I believe everyone will eventually have to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange simply because no one will want dollars in the end. So if the dollar keeps devaluing, which it has been over the past 100 years, almost to zero, then eventually people will say, I will not sell you this bread or these eggs for dollars. I want Bitcoin. And this is at the point at which you don't have a choice. You have to adopt Bitcoin as your currency, because if you do not do that, then you won't be able to buy anything. So it's
Yeah.
sort of an inevitability. So I believe if Bitcoin does do its thing, which it should be doing very soon, running up to the hundreds of thousands of dollars to a million, then we should see a lot more interest on the nation state level.
Bitcoin's value is set to soar, potentially reaching 1 million per coin, driven by the rise of hyper-Bitcoinization. According to Samson Mo, CEO of JAN3, the US debt crisis, which now requires almost $1 trillion annually to cover interest payments, calls for a bold solution. Mo suggests the US dollar could be revalued against Bitcoin, effectively creating a modern gold standard by pegging the dollar to 1 satoshi, the smallest Bitcoin unit. With the return of Donald Trump and the potential creation of a US Bitcoin reserve, Mo believes this shift could happen sooner than expected. This change could spark a global Bitcoin revolution, pushing its price to new heights. Stay tuned as Mo discusses why more nations might soon back their currencies with Bitcoin and what this means for the future of global finance. Also, if you enjoy listening to crypto-related content, please show your support by liking and subscribing to this channel by following the link in my bio. And get access to my free daily crypto updates and expert predictions direct to your inbox. Each newsletter contains market intelligence, on-chain data and latest updates from experts in the crypto space. All of this is available completely free of charge. Signing up only takes a moment and you can always change your mind later on. Now back over to Samson Mo.
I believe Bitcoin is severely undervalued right now. Even anywhere sub 100K is just a very rare anomaly. We should have been far higher than 100,000 right now, but I believe we're on track to 1 million. The ETFs have been an enormous influx of capital into Bitcoin, but that has been muted by the unwinding of GBTC or grayscale Bitcoin. So I think my prediction was earlier this year that the ETFs would send us there. I still believe that that will be the case, but it has been muted because of the unwinding of all the drama, I guess, that is largely held over from FTX until now. So we're getting to the point where we should be going parabolic very soon. First of all, you can look at the macro Well, El Salvador has rolled out, their Bitcoin legal tender law, and we've seen a decent amount of adoption in El Salvador. But all over the world, you see a lot of Bitcoin adoption, but I wouldn't say it's at the hyper Bitcoinization level yet, simply because I think the wallet infrastructure is not there. It's still very difficult to onboard people into Bitcoin, and this is something we're trying to solve at Jan 3 with our Aqua wallet. It's a Bitcoin and Layer 2 wallet, and the goal is that we can use Layer 2 technologies like Liquid to onboard the next billion people to Bitcoin in a very simple and easy to use manner. We do see a massive amount of stablecoin adoption, particularly in Latin America and just generally developing countries. And this is more driven out of necessity. So they're not really seeking Bitcoin. They're seeking US dollars or digital dollars. And in places like Latin America, they don't even say Tether. Like they just say digital dollars because for them it's synonymous. But they are seeking out stability in light of their currency problems at home and the debasement and inflation of their own currencies. So I believe that as Bitcoiners and people trying to push for Bitcoin adoption, we can leverage that and bring people into Bitcoin by offering stablecoins in a Bitcoin wallet, which has not been something that most Bitcoin wallets have focused on in the past, but is something that we are very much focused on. So that's sort of a Trojan horse for us, getting more people that are just looking for digital dollars into Bitcoin. To answer your other question, I believe everyone will eventually have to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, simply because no one will want dollars in the end. So if the dollar keeps devaluing, which it has been over the past 100 years, almost to zero, then eventually people will say, I will not sell you this bread or these eggs for dollars. I want Bitcoin. And this is at the point at which you don't have a choice. You have to adopt Bitcoin as your currency, because if you do not do that, then you won't be able to buy anything. So it's sort of an inevitability. Well, I think most Bitcoiners, like a fair amount of Bitcoiners, don't want to spend their Bitcoin, but
Sure.
a good portion do, simply for the goal of spreading awareness and adoption. But there's a simple way around that, which is spend and replace. So while you can still buy Bitcoin with dollars, you can spend the Bitcoin and replace it by buying it back later. And in doing so, you're sort of fostering the emergence of circular economies where people accept Bitcoin and they spend Bitcoin out again. But we have to start somewhere, and we have to jumpstart that process somehow. There are definitely forces out there that don't want Bitcoin to be adopted. Some of it is not so covert. So you see the IMF actively at work trying to convince El Salvador to roll back or dial back their Bitcoin law or minimize it in some way. You've also seen the IMF exert pressure on Argentina. If you go back a couple of years, you'll see Argentina had a sort of a letter of intent saying they're not going to do anything with Bitcoin. But in other places too, that countries we've engaged in, such as Suriname, we met with their central bank, we presented a plan there, and then a few weeks later, the World Bank visited, and suddenly things go quiet. So we know for a fact that there are definitely interested parties that don't want Bitcoin to be adopted worldwide as money. The business of these supranational organizations like the IMF and World Bank is effectively to loan money and to keep countries impoverished, right? There is no country taking money from the IMF that has grown out of that debt or grown into prosperity out of borrowing money in and of itself. El Salvador is doing quite well now, but that's more to do with the policies and the adoption of Bitcoin than being able to borrow more money from the IMF. So I think it's their goal that they keep people borrowing, because then they keep their jobs and they keep their mandate. But that's not necessarily in the best interest of sovereign nations, that you're beholden to a foreign power to dictate what happens in your own country and with your own economy. Ultimately, the first and the most important function of Bitcoin is to be money. Once you have that established as a primary use case, then things like smart contracts can be beneficial, but smart contracts are more like icing on the cake, and Bitcoin is the cake itself. It's just ramping up. So I believe if Bitcoin does do its thing, which it should be doing very soon, running up to the hundreds of thousands of dollars to a million, then we should see a lot more interest on the nation state level.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe for news and expert predictions direct to your inbox.